Hello and welcome to the Flourishing Introvert Talks with me, Jo Rawbone. This is the podcast that celebrates the natural gifts of introverts so that we can flourish in all situations. Episode 310, How Hustling Breaks Introverts. For those like me in the small business world, the word hustle has become synonymous with work we do to build our business, maybe alongside our day job. It's tiring but soul-nourishing in so many ways as we're paving our way out from corporate slavery. But what I could never come to terms with is how that work was given the term side hustle, as it totally demeans the world we're creating for ourselves, our loved ones, and our clients. But that's not really what this episode is about. And yet, I needed to get it off my chest before we start. And if you're in that exact position now, congratulations. And let's find a better term for that vital, exciting, life-changing work that you're doing. Now, let's get to the real content for this episode. And yes, it's still related to the word hustle and my intense dislike for the word and its impact. The culture of hustle, and yes, it's a real thing, is such a masculine energy concept, and dare I say it, an extrovert way of pushing for more. The reality is, for many of we introverts, it's particularly destabilising. We find hustling and being hustled exhausting, as it fragments how we think, how we process information, and how we express ourselves. I'm sure many of us find that challenging enough in normal times, so just imagine how much more pressure it creates when the hustle is on. And some of you in corporate roles may have noticed that the pace has already picked up since the festive break, although hustle is not just about pace, as will become clear later. The pace has picked up because resolutions and any good intentions to be a better manager or leader have hit the skids. In fact, these good intentions often fail anywhere between the 9th and the 18th of January, so it's no surprise that people have reverted to type by the time we get to February, is it? Now let's get back to the impact hustling and being hustled has on we introverts. The kind of urgency, pressure and expectations that accompanies hustle quietly erodes the conditions necessary for us to think clearly and deeply. These conditions include time, space, and a conducive environment. So guess what? I'd say hustle is a part of the bias that makes our lives more difficult than they need to be. We feel swept into a frenetic rhythm that some may think is productive because it's all about the doing. But it's a tidal wave of delusion, because whilst we're fighting to keep our head above the water, we're compromising judgment, discernment, and the necessary clarity. In short, it robs us of some of the very strengths that we're so well known for. But if we allow ourselves a moment of rationality to understand the rise of the hustle culture, here's what we find. We could say it was born during the reign of 20th century capitalism, when overworking became proof of ambition. The mantra was, anyone can make it in life if they will just work hard enough. Then, in the early 2000s, we began hearing messages like, there's plenty of time to sleep when you're dead, and no pain, no gain. Opting out of hustle was still relatively easy during these times. Once social media exploded onto the scene and gained traction, though, hustling became a badge of office that we showed the world. The 4 a.m. wake up, meditate, gym routines, the rest is for pussies and my commitment is better than yours brags. It becomes much more difficult to be the outlier now. the one who proudly posts about needing to rest and recuperate in order to prevent burnout, the one who shows real life on their profile rather than pretending to be Billy Big Bollocks. I think you can see and have probably felt why it has had and continues to have such a detrimental impact on introverts. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying hard work doesn't matter. It absolutely does. And I was raised with a strong work ethic, which I still demonstrate to this day. But alongside hard work, our health and well-being also matters. And make no mistake, you are the only one who has the ability to manage that. Employers have a duty of care, a responsibility for your health and well-being. Not that it's obvious in some organisations, but the buck stops with you. So if you're operating in a system where speed is equated with competence, where visibility equals value and relevance, where being loud is considered a marker of leadership, where busyness is confused with progress, and where constant output is the prerequisite for success, you're engulfed in a hustle culture. Time to see it for what it really is, meaning it's time to look out for you. Remember that decision you were rushed into without being able to give it due consideration? The one that never sat right with you? You were hustled. That performance review where you were told that you weren't agile enough. You're not a gymnast. You were being hustled. Those sleepless nights or the 3 a.m. wake-ups where your mind immediately switches into work mode and you're instantly wired. You're in the grip of the hustle. These are uncomfortable but necessary realizations. I invite you to really pay attention to these and other hustle flavour clues so that you can determine your choices and/or future boundaries. Being able to ask for what you need in order to be at your best is your right and your responsibility. Remember, no one else will do it for you because no one else really knows what you need. They might guess or surmise, but when the tidal wave of hustle sweeps through, all logic and consideration is submerged. And if you get caught up in it, there's a good chance your thinking will be suboptimal. Not intentionally, of course, but that's the nature of this hustle culture. And I do think the hustlers rather enjoy discombobulating us. So what do we do in that moment? My recommendation is to play to your strengths and do so in your calm, steady, reflective way. Take the time you need to weigh up the situation, consider your response, and plan your actions. Think of it as clinging to a solid, safe object, a welcome tethered life raft, so you can avoid being swept along. That life raft offers a refuge, the space and time to breathe and gather your thoughts. And far from this making us slow or resistant or disengaged, this is what enables us to return to being centred, to regain clarity, and to be able to do our best work. From our perspective, we know that if we try to override the signs of overwhelm or introvert hangover, we are on the slippery slope to burnout. That's when others may come at you with the criticisms and the comparisons, so make sure your inner critic isn't listening. Remember that regardless of what the critics say, withdrawing is essential mental and emotional maintenance for us. We know it doesn't mean we are weak or fragile or disengaged. We are simply working to get back on an even keel. When we are able to think deeply, so having the right conditions, we are more likely to access mastery, which is one of the essential components of self-motivation. This depth of thought is what enables intentional and impactful contributions and interactions. And because we know that authentic presence is greater than showy performance, our behaviour is sustainable, enhancing the likelihood of our success. We may not be able to stop the hustle or avoid it completely, but we can choose how we respond to it. Hustle thrives on comparison. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it requires comparison. And we know that comparison inevitably leads to feelings of either inferiority or superiority. Neither of these are helpful. So I invite you to see the hustle for what it is, to find your safe, tethered raft and pause there for as long as you need. Whilst there, determine your response, your way forward, and what you're prepared to opt into or engage with. And once you have your breath back, you can proceed with caution. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, then please subscribe, rate us and leave a comment, because we know that that helps other people find the podcast. And if other people find us, other introverts can flourish.
You are listening to an Intentional Media Production podcast.